résistez mon aujourd'hui bon matin, bonjour et bienvenue dans nos Topik conversation et nous partageons, par nous dit, tout le temps nous rencontrons différentes personnalités qui nous partagent des histoires avec vous et qui avaient faut espérer pour faire une différence dans la vie, mais aussi dans la communauté et dans le monde en entier. Aujourd'hui, nous avons Z mademoiselle qui vient Cécile et nous rencontrons différents Z Cécilois et faut espérer qu'ils n'espient les autres et montrer les autres, par nous dit, différentes façons de faire, mais aussi différentes façons de penser, qui fait qu'il y a vraiment beaucoup de bien-être et beaucoup de bénéfices pour Cécile en entier à travers nos bonnes scènes. Aujourd'hui, bon matin, pour raison de communication, nous allons faire une interview en anglais et mon grand plaisir pour introduire les autres aujourd'hui, bon matin. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome on our panel today is, of course, Miss Z.ODUWOLE. Yeah, did I say that right, or did I murder your family
No,
name?
you said it fine, yeah.
It's okay. How are you this morning?
I'm doing good, thank you. How are you?
I'm not too bad myself. Welcome to the show. And
Thank
of course, we've got a little tradition here. We're being nosy. Before we go in everything else of your life, we start off with the simple little things of the morning.
Okay.
How does Zuriel start her morning? And what does she do with it? Tea, coffee, water? And what time do you wake up?
Oh, it all varies. There's no set schedule for me with all the work, even being jet lagged.
Okay.
So my morning could be 2 in the morning is when I start the day.
Okay.
So it always varies. Tea, coffee, water, that always varies. Sometimes juice is nice.
Okay.
Juice can be nice.
All right. You got any preference?
For juice?
Yeah.
Since I've been here, the passion fruit juice is really amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
Tropical
I'm sorry.
fruits,
I'm
yeah.
sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I like passion fruit, so that's
Yeah.
been pretty good. But no, every morning is so different. I'm sure as we get along further in this discussion, you'll see just how different each of my days can be.
But do you have a preference for the morning, how you start your morning, your routine?
Routine, prayer. Absolutely prayer. Start every day right. And then it's just whatever I have that day. It's planning, it's preparation, it's getting ready, and just whatever it may be. Hanging out with my family, that's very important to me. So I always try to make sure at some point in the day there's
get
time
that
for
time
that.
in.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. Are you a morning or a night person?
It also varies. In Seychelles, I'm a night person because of the jet lag, so
Okay.
I'm up all hours of the night. Back home, I don't know. I think I'm a very simple person. Like, if you get to know me, I'm very laid back, very easygoing. It all matters.
But surely with the world, of course, with everything that happens in your life, this is dictated based on your work.
Yeah.
But as an individual, as a human being, surely you must have your own personal preferences, which does not matter what your dad thinks or the world thinks or the meeting or the Nobel Peace Prize or whatever. It's Zuriel, you as an individual. Surely you must have your individuality that signifies who you are.
It is. A lot of the work that I do is part of my
Yeah.
individuality. That's
But little
why,
things as a human being, little pleasures.
Yeah, I do. I take part in that. Like, when I'm not doing all these different works back at home, I have my friends who play sports, play soccer.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, play soccer, hang
Yeah.
out with my family. We like to cook sometimes together. We'll try new recipes.
Are you good at cooking?
I think so. You'd have to ask. I feel like I'm very biased, though. I think so. You'd have to ask my. Hey, they eat it. As long as they finish it on the plate, to me, that means that they
And so
liked
far
it.
it's been good.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have what are your favorites?
To cook?
When you're in the kitchen, the family's like, okay, this is what she's gonna bring on the table.
Oh, if it's me, I'll either do some type of like Japanese teriyaki beef over white rice,
Okay.
or like to keep it very traditional and like very like homely, or lasagna. That's
Okay.
something that they say I'm known for.
Oh, so
Yeah.
you have a
I
good...
didn't bring any for you today, but if you taste it, hopefully you'd like it.
Okay, we'll kick that meeting for food. All right, so you've decided to come to the Seychelles and share your work with the Seychelles youth. How did that start? Where did that connection come from?
Yeah, so I mean, in the work that I do, there's a couple of different broad areas.
Yeah.
The first is education advocacy.
Okay.
So I do a lot of work trying to get out of school kids back into schools.
Okay.
And also for those who are in school, show them an example of what an educated youth can do to inspire them and encourage them to stay in school.
Okay.
So I've done that now. Seychelles is the 23rd country I visited for this work. I've also done it in places like Botswana, Ethiopia, South Africa, Ghana, just basically speaking to students. Spoken to now, the numbers are always changing. I think it's about like 57,480 youth, somewhere around there, for this work. I'm actually going to be doing that later on today as well. Okay. But the main reason why I'm here in Seychelles, and it kind of ties in my other two things that I do, first is presidential advisor. So I meet and sit down one-on-one with heads of state to discuss could be education in the country, youth development, especially when it comes to youth development, and things such as that, policies that can be created, initiatives that can be run in the countries to help youth, right? It's all about helping youth get a brighter future. And so over the last, I've been doing this for almost just over 10 years now, since I was like 9 years old. Oh, my goodness, 13 years now, like when I do the math in my head. And so I've met leaders like President of Egypt, President of Malta, President of South Sudan, President of Kenya for these kinds of topics. And in September last year, I had the honor of meeting your president, and we sat down and he was speaking to me and we were talking about the work that I do. And it was just basically what can be done for the youth here in Seychelles. And he found out that the third thing I do is I'm a filmmaker. And so usually I create documentaries to tell either positive stories, just because there's so many negative things in the world, to tell untold stories, 'cause it's important to shed light on those things, and also to bring awareness to certain issues. And so we sat down, we had a conversation, also the Minister of Youth and Sports, I believe it was, and we were just saying, okay, what can be done here in Seychelles? And when they found out as a filmmaker, and with my foundation, the Susi Foundation, one of the things that we do is we teach a filmmaking workshop, basic filmmaking workshop. You go over editing, lighting, audio, storyboarding, and things like that. And when they found out about it, we were like, okay, how do we make this work? That was September last year, February this year, and it's come to fruition. And basically, I spent the weekend, I'm working with, I think, 50 youth it was, just having such a blast, honestly. So much creativity and innovation here in the youth of Seychelles, and just being able to sit back and like watch them put together films, put them on a big screen, it's been so amazing. So that's been mostly what the work that I've been doing here.
Zuriel, first impression of Seychelles when you walked out?
Oh, beautiful. Warm. They were telling me, is it not too hot for you? I'm like, no, I'm from Los Angeles. Like, we're used to sun. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's so much greenery. So much plant life, animal life. People are so friendly. I'm pretty sure everyone I've met has always greeted me with like a smile on their face. Like everyone here is so amazing. And the food's pretty good too. Said I like cooking and also like eating. Yes, I don't know what you. I heard that anything that's fish related. Is
we're big on
fish.
Seafood,
the seafood, shrimp, prawns. Oh, it's amazing. I love it all.
So you've had the pleasure of working with some of the Seychelles youth here, some 50 plus. How has that been for you? I mean, do you feel you managed to give them all the information that you wanted to? And do you feel that it was enough time spent with them?
I think, listen, you could always spend more time. I mean, over a workshop, I'm glad that we were able to do it over 2 days. It gave for that time, like day one, meet everybody, get to know everybody, go over the basics of filmmaking. And day two was just all shooting and editing. And so it was an amazing time. I got to work with 4 different groups. We broke the 50 students into 4 different groups. Each group came up with their own production company name, like Tropical Island Productions, Biggie Crew, I think that's what they called their production company. And then just being able to sit back and watch them all create. There was a silent film, there was a film about anti-bullying, a film like positive messaging, and so it was so amazing. I felt like I got to really know each and every one of the students, and to be able to create that community and that atmosphere where it's not about the individual in filmmaking, also about the collaborative work, right? The teamwork. Exactly. Building that kind of those friendships and that film family, so to speak. It was so amazing.
Now, going back to you mentioned since 9 years old, you've been doing this. Where did that come from? Is there somebody in the family that has done this, has followed the same path as you, that has influenced your life? Or is it just you, Zuriel, as an individual, you're like, okay, this is what I want to do? And how supportive has the family been in your journey?
Oh, they've been incredibly supportive. I actually started with filmmaking. That's how I started when I was 9 years old. I entered a competition back home. My school was part of this national competition called National History Day. And basically they were asking students across the United States to create a documentary on a particular topic they would give you. So I entered that. I thought filmmaking, that could be kind of fun. You know,
do you remember
the
topic?
This year that I entered was Revolutions in History.
Interesting.
Revolutions in History, yeah. So it had to be historical. And so that year I entered, I chose to create my documentary on the Ghana Revolution. I found out it was one of the most successful held on the African continent. And I just wanted to be different. You know, all my fellow students are focusing on the American Revolution, Industrial Revolution, various European ones. I kind of wanted to stand out, be a little bit different. So I came to Ghana to film scenes for the documentary as part of that project. And when I was there, that's when I first saw with my own eyes a lot of students, a lot of student-aged children out on the streets, selling things, doing various things instead of being in school. And I was 9 years old, and I went to school back home in the U.S., so I saw it, and I was like, you know, how come they're not in school during normal school hours, like noon, 10 a.m., 2 p.m., whatever it may be? And I found out that it's major challenge, not just in the African continent, but in other regions of the world as well, of children not being in school.
Yeah.
So I got back home, and I still competed in that competition, and I didn't want it to end there, though. You know, my parents raised me and my 3 younger siblings knowing that if you see something and think you can make a difference in someone else's life, or at least if you think you can try to make a difference, right? It's all about the effort. Then they said you should do it. And so I saw that, went back home, and spent a year kind of brainstorming, like, what can a 9-year-old girl, eventually what could a 10-year-old girl tangibly do to help these students? And it took a year of planning, but eventually I started the Dream Up, Speak Up, Stand Up project.
Okay.
And that was the project that became the thing where I go and visit schools, speak to students in schools, and then along with that also speaking to heads of state.
Yeah.
And then that project graduated into the DSUSU Foundation, so DUSUSU, just an acronym for Dream Up, Speak Up, Stand Up.
Yeah.
And so that's basically how it all started. My family's been incredibly supportive throughout the entire time. My 3 younger siblings, Azalea, she's actually here on this trip with me. She helps out a bit at the foundation as well. She and my other sister helped co-found the foundation. So they all help.
So is this a thing?
Well, our brother helps as well. Our brother, he was younger when we started it,
Okay.
but now that he's 15 years old, he's also helping as well.
All right.
He introduces me sometimes when we go and speak at schools. He works with the kids on different crafts and activities, depending on what we're doing there. But they're all incredibly supportive. My
So
parents.
where are you in the family grid?
I'm the oldest
Okay.
of the kids. I'm the
All
oldest
right.
of the siblings. Yeah. Then it's another girl, Azalea. She's 20. Another girl, Ariel. She's 17. And then the youngest is the boy, Iswakai, who's 15 years old now.
So he's kind of like the baby of the family.
That kind of. He is the baby of the family. Yeah.
So like 3 girls and one boy. How's that in the house?
It's a lot of fun. I mean, I'm sure if you ask anybody, every dynamic is very different depending on where you fall in the family line, how many girls, how many boys. We have a blast, though. We're very close because we're also very close in age. I'm only 22, so 2 years older than the one who comes directly after me. But it's so much fun. And being able to travel with them on these projects and work with them, doing something that we're very passionate about, that we love to do, you know, it's definitely a blessing. It's something that you don't even think about, being able to just do something with my siblings that we all love doing. But I'm definitely grateful for them. And my parents as well have been very, very supportive.
Talking about meeting world leaders, and obviously a lot of the time, certain times people say that they are present, but not really present in the conversation. They talk about certain things, but when it comes to actually delivering and actioning on their words, what are your thoughts on that? How happy or unhappy are you with certain decisions that are being taken in the world in this moment right now?
Well, for each of the now 37 heads of state that I've had the opportunity to sit down with, they're all been extremely gracious with their time.
Okay.
To take time out of their busy, because they're all sitting heads of state, take time out of their busy schedules to sit with me and discuss issues that I think are important and they agree with as well, whether it's youth development, ending girl marriage. That was something we worked on with President Felipe Nyusi in Mozambique.
Okay.
They're incredibly supportive, and I think it's that thing where we all want better for the next generations that come up, right? Youth are so important, they're so important. And even with each of the heads of state that we've met with, we've all been able to, for the most part, sit down and create tangible action steps, right? For some of the leaders that I've met, they've invited me back to their countries to see work that they've done. I met President Kikwete of Tanzania a few years back, and back then the United Nations had their Sustainable Development Goals, which they had to be done by 2015. And his country was at 97% enrollment at primary education level. So I sat down and spoke to him, and then a year later he invited me to his country to see new schools he was putting in place, new initiatives he was building to help get kids who were out of school into those schools. I mean, even here, President Wabo of Seychelles, we met just a couple of months ago in September during the UN General Assembly to discuss youth development, discuss initiatives that can be done in the country. And just a couple months later, he's invited me here. We're able to put it to work with youth in filmmaking. And so it's always very inspiring to see, like I said, collaboration. Not any one person can do it. We all have a role to play. And so I'm always very honored whenever they take the time to sit down and meet with me and we get to work on these different projects together.
Do you think Africa is being truly represented as it is by the Western media?
Depends on like what
in terms of development, in terms of the greater picture of Africa. Do you feel, in all honesty, the Western media is really portraying Africa what it is, as it is?
Well, so part of why I do these filmmaking workshops is because of the importance of storytelling. And so whenever I'm sitting down and I'm working with youth, it's always not just let's create fun films, you know, because that's part of it. But it's also about using media, using storytelling to tell your story, whether it's like a personal story, the story of your communities, or the story of your countries, right? If you want a story to get out there, sometimes you have to tell it yourself. It's like, you know, that old saying, until the lion learns to write, the story always favors the hunter. And so as part of these filmmaking workshops, our hope is that as we continue to work with youth from various countries, we've now taught this workshop in Seychelles is the 9th country.
Yes.
So we've taught it in Mexico, we've taught it in Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Nigeria, Ethiopia, Rwanda. It's all about raising a generation of youth who has this tool which they can use to tell stories, tell positive stories, tell untold stories, and bring awareness to different things going on in the world.
Now, there's a lot of changes happening in Africa right now, especially when it comes to the youth taking over, whichever means of ways they decide to take over, but it represents a change for the continent itself. Do you feel that you have more work to do in the continent as a whole?
I think there's always work to be done.
Yeah.
It's that thing, because if you take a step back and like, what is it that we're working towards? We're trying to get as many out of school students as possible back into schools, right? We're trying to work to improve education system. So there's always work to be done. And so it's not like, is there more work, is there less work? There's always work to be done. And it's just to remain focused and like understanding that fact. And when you set that goal and understand what you're working towards, then you just keep putting in the work and the efforts to hopefully one day see, you know, the end goal, the end result.
What is your goal for 2025?
2025 has just started. We, with our foundation, a lot of the work that we do whenever we partner with organizations and partnerships, some are planned out in advance. So like this workshop we're here for in Seychelles, we knew about back in September.
Okay.
Other events may come up March, April, May. Some come up 2 weeks in advance, a week in advance. Some are a bit more planned. So
you have to be on
throughout
the move.
The year, we're always on the
get-go.
move.
Okay.
Yeah, hence why the night out morning is like, I'm always changing. Whatever is called and asked of me is what I am for that period of time. But we're looking forward to doing a lot of work this year with the foundation, not just with film workshops. But we want to expand our reach. We started doing a lot of our work on the African continent, but as part of those 23 countries, we've also expanded to the Caribbean region, done a bit of work in Europe, and more recently in the Middle East. So it's just expanding our work, expanding our footprint, and just continuing doing as much as possible to help the next generation in terms of opportunities, raising them up to be change makers and things like that.
And let's just talk about, you know, just this little minor thing that is happening to you right now. Nominee for the Nobel Prize, that's just a little thing, not a big deal, you know, no pressure.
No pressure, right?
How was that for you? I mean, getting the news in the first place.
I mean, cause I've been asked this a lot. It's like, oh, like you were expecting, it's like,
Yeah.
No, I wasn't expecting this. I mean, to be nominated, I still haven't said it, the words out loud, as like nominated for the Nobel
Have
Peace
you had time
Prize.
to sit with this?
It's like, no, we're still
that
traveling.
topic for you?
It's still sinking in for us. Like for me and my family, when we first heard about it, our dad was overseas for work. We was like our usual family, you know, check in. Hey, how's everyone doing at home? Good. And he just called and he was like, you know, oh, yeah, if you guys like, if we're to think and sit down, like, what's the biggest award that you can think of right now? And we were thinking like Oscars and things like that, 'cause it was around that season. And he was like, well, if you were to think like biggest global award, we were like, oh, like Nobel Prize, like that's probably, you know, the biggest global award. And he was like, yeah, well, Zuriel, you're nominated for it. And I actually don't remember much. I don't remember much what happened after that. I know in the days following, like there were some times we were sitting on the dinner table, like eating lunch or something, and we'd just be like, nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. It still hasn't sunk in for us. And then it's like we're all sitting here saying like, well, how? Like, you know, like who, what, when, where, why, how, all these types of things. I mean, even as information is still coming in. At first we heard there was a professor from USC, professor from, I think it was University of Missouri, I believe, who nominated me. And then we found out there was a senator involved, a congressman involved. We're still finding out the information ourselves. And like, when we're thinking of the why, I couldn't tell you. Sitting here now, I think we've known for just over a week and a half, maybe almost 2 weeks. I still couldn't tell you. It could be like, because I'm an education advocate, right? And we're sitting, and I think one time we're talking about, oh, like, you know, when kids are educated, they're in school, leads to less conflict, less instability. You can find a way to like tie education to peace that way. Through our film workshops, like the Ending Girl Marriage in Mozambique. I know I've also done a couple of like smaller peace initiatives. I met with President David Granger of Guyana, back when Guyana and Venezuela were facing a bit of tension over the Essequibo oil territory. And then also President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi of Egypt, completely different region. You've got Southern America, now over here in the Middle East. He invited me to his country to discuss peace initiatives and the importance and power of youth voices in the area. So it could be any of those reasons, one of those reasons, none of those reasons. We still have no idea, but just to be nominated is an honor enough. You know, when you consider past winners like Kofi Annan, President Carter, Nelson Mandela, the nomination, I feel like I can run off to the sunset now. Like the nomination itself is enough. And then when you break down all the categories, you have, I think, literature, you have medicine, I believe, some things you have business and economics, and it's just like, then there's the peace one. You know, it's to be even considered even nominated, that's the honor for me. Like
If you win, Zuriel, let's just pretend here. Let's have a little moment for yourself here. If you do win, what does that represent for you? And because you need to plan this with the 50-50 chance of winning and not winning. Not winning, okay, we go on. But winning, that could change your life completely. I mean, have you even given thought? I know you haven't, it's been a week, but do you have a strategic plan for after winning, should you win?
No, not like I said, it's still sitting in for us. But tell you what, if that day comes, we'll sit down again, then you can ask me, what's your plan now moving forward? But again, it's such an honor. It's still unbelievable to us and still sinking in.
22 years old, Zuriel, and you've accomplished so much in, I don't want to say such a small, Dad is looking at us right now, such a small span. Is there anything outside of that world that you would like to do in the near future?
That's such a good question. I think.
Oh, thank you.
No, in all honesty, I really do enjoy the work that I do now.
Okay.
Especially work, like I have I'm very passionate about youth and the next generation, and I feel like I couldn't even picture right now, honestly, like if I wasn't doing this, like what would I be doing?
Yeah.
What else would I be doing? You know, like it's something that's definitely become part of my everyday and what I do. And so when you're like, what would you do outside of this? I'm like, I would do more of this.
Because you're living your passion, aren't you?
Yeah, and that's a genuine answer. Like
Yeah.
I can't even think of anything else right now. I mean, it's such an honor and a blessing to be able to do the work that we do.
Yeah.
And with it is a responsibility that you continue doing it, right? You don't start and then stop at the first accomplishment, the first milestone.
Yeah.
You keep moving forward. And so everything that I've done working with youth, they've also inspired me to continue going. Every time I sit down with youth, whether it's from Seychelles or Ethiopia or Kenya or wherever it may be, it's just being inspired by them, hearing their dreams, their passions, their goals. And to me, it just reminds me of why we're doing the work that we do, and it's just to continue doing that work.
Do you have a vision board?
No, I don't have a vision board. I live the vision board.
Okay.
I'm living the vision board.
Oh, well, good to know. 22 years old, mesdames et messieurs. Zuriel aujourd'hui est nominée pour Nobel Peace Prize pour l'année 2025. Simon est l'accomplissement qui même lui, il pas rêvé pour arriver. Nominated dans lui-même, il y a un grand accomplissement, mais si gagne, c'est une autre conversation dans lui-même, n'a pas réfléchi là. Un zen qui dédie son vie pour passer dans différents pays, causer, promouvoir la paix et aussi encadrer les zen avec l'éducation qui aussi une norme l'égalité, gender equality as well. Il ne forme pas son travail qu'il fait, mais la paix qui est fondamentale pour lui à cause il link tout ça là, il maillage tout ça là ensemble. Alors, qui fait que Zuriel, we continue our conversation this morning, and of course, just a little bit about family. I know you've talked about your family, and every aspect of your life is interlinked with how important is family life for you? I know you work, and your family is work, but we're working. But outside of working, we have lunch, we have dinner. What are some of the things you guys do as a family? Outside of
this work.
Outside of this.
Wait, I mean, family is extremely important to me. We've been raised up. I'm very, very grateful to have like 3 younger siblings. We're so close in age. We feel like very close together, you know, almost like each other's best friends. And it's fun in our house. There's never a dull moment, that's for sure. You can't have 4 kids and have a dull moment in the house.
Home?
We spend a lot of time together. You mean because of all the travel and everything like that? We still spend time together.
Okay.
I mean, we may travel like a week, 2 weeks here and there, but we still spend time together. This holidays, this summers, things like that.
What's your favorite holiday?
Probably Christmas.
Christmas.
Just for the reason for the season, yeah, just Christmas, absolutely. Got to be thankful for like.
I mean, the gifts under the Christmas tree must be really interesting. Traveling the world, and you're like, oh, this looks good for Christmas. Maybe he would like this, or she would like this.
No, our Christmases are very, I mean, like, we understand the reason for the season, right? Our Lord and Savior. And it's a time where we get to come together. We get to just take a break, you know, from all the work and all the busy and all the traveling, and just come together, spend time together, Christmas movies, decorating, cooking together as a family. But we do a lot of things together. And even outside like a Christmas season, we go out, we hang out at the park, we go to the mall, we go to the movies, we do a lot of...
Just like a normal family.
Just normal family, yeah.
Because a lot of people are under the impression when you're traveling a lot and you're, you know, it's kind of like almost a celebrity feel.
No. I mean, I think we've been doing it for so long, and also had that privilege of my family coming with me, my siblings coming with me, and so it feels like even if we're not physically in our house, like that building, we're still family, we're still home, we're still traveling together. Exactly, yeah. But no, we have a blast. Like, we'll do all kinds of things. I know over the last weekend, like, our youngest brother also plays soccer, and so sometimes we'll take him out, we'll train with him. My siblings do like fun competitions in the house, like who can do the longest this and that. Like, we're regular kids. We're still regular kids. Everyone has to know that we're regular kids. But it's always so much fun. And anyone who's ever met like our siblings and seen that dynamic, to just see how much fun, like how loud we can be. We can be loud sometimes, but like all in good fun, you know, like all in good fun.
And of course, looking at the work you do, being a young person yourself, what are some of the things you aspire for the youth of the different regions that you've traveled in?
Well, I think
what
one
are the
of the things I would have
that you
to say
feel is important for the youth of today?
Yeah.
Because time of change, isn't it?
Oh, as they always do.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, education still remains very important. One thing I've been speaking about in my different various events I've been to, like conferences, Miss Conference, Saudi Arabia, Doha Conference, WISE in Qatar. More recently, I've been talking about this thing called alternative education.
Okay.
And it's this concept that, you know, schooling is not just the four walls, the math, history, science. There's other things you can learn as well, other things that can be considered education, right?
Yeah.
We teach filmmaking, that's one example. There's also coding, entrepreneurship, different things like that. And so it's whether it's through that physical building or creating programs and alternative educational opportunities, especially for students who are no longer the traditional students, right? Maybe those who dropped out and then want to come back to school and they feel like they're too old to. It's more of like creating those opportunities. And so education is extremely important, whether it's the traditional schooling, the alternative education schooling, and then also something else that I very much aspire for this generation is that I want us to be a generation that dreams. You know what I mean? It may seem like simple.
Do you think we don't dream enough?
No, it's not even that. It's just making sure that we dream big dreams. You know, I met President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf of Liberia, and when I met her, she said something extremely profound, still stuck with me to this day. I met her when I was 10 years old, so that's like 12 years later. And she said that if your dreams don't scare you, then they're not big enough.
Okay.
And so it's not just about like the dreams, like the pilot, the business and things like that, but it's what can be done with those dreams. To greater impact the world, you know? Dream big dreams that not only affect us, not only affect our families, but also our communities, our countries, and the whole world. You know, one thing I always tell students is it doesn't cost to dream, right? You could sit there and say you want to be president when you grow up, or you can sit there and say you want to be a doctor, a pilot, an astronaut, an artist, an actress, whatever it may be. It doesn't cost, like you don't have to swipe a MasterCard to have those dreams. And so it's just understanding like we all have dreams. But it's one, dreaming big dreams, like don't think small, dream big dreams, because it's with those bigger dreams and you really set high goals and aspirations for yourself that you can work towards. You know, if you sit here and just like say, oh, like that's too big of something for me to accomplish or anything like that, then it won't get done, right? You've got to be able to set those dreams, and I feel like as youth in this generation, we have the ability to dream. Like to dream incredibly scary dreams that will, you know, impact the world for the better. And so that's something I very much want for my generation, for the generations that come after, is to have those dreams and just along with those dreams also finding things that you're passionate about. Because when you're passionate about, when you're driven, then nothing can get in your way from achieving those dreams that you've set for yourself.
Zuriel, let's go back home, the US. A lot of people would be asking, why do you think you're doing enough in your own home? Because it starts at home. Do you think enough is being done for the youth of the US?
Well, so for example,
especially being, sorry, I have to bring that in, coming from a black family. We've heard so many stories of what is happening with the youth in America. Do you feel enough is being done at home before we venture off into other countries?
So with our foundation's work, for example, we do a lot of the work overseas because that's where kids are out of school. But even back home, we've run initiatives, we've run filmmaking workshops, because it's not just about teaching like those skills, it's also about creating change makers in the communities, right? If we want to see change, we have to make sure that we're better equipping each generation that comes after us to grow up to be change makers. So we do work at home, absolutely. I mean, I'm LA born and raised. We just held a filmmaking workshop there not too long ago. And so there is work that we do at home, work that we do overseas. And it's that thing where it's not just on one person, right? Everyone has a role to play. And
It
so
has no
it's just-
boundaries.
Exactly. So work at home, work overseas, wherever the help is needed. We don't keep it to one area. But absolutely, I look forward to doing a lot more, whether it's at home or across the world as well.
Do you see yourself ever in politics one day?
People ask me that. I mean, I know when I was younger, I also talked about, one day being the president of the United States. It's a thing where it's just to look at where I'm at in life and to see what positions I can be in to help make the greatest impact, right?
Yeah.
The work that we're doing now, we always want to continue to grow it. And so we'll see what happens in the future.
So that dream is still alive.
I'm still young, so I have time.
Zoriel, any message you want to pass with the youth of Seychelles? Or in general?
In general, I think dreaming is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely what I've just said about dreaming. And then also, I would also add on to that, because whenever you have those big dreams, right, it's not to say that just by having those dreams, you'll achieve it easily, no obstacles. Like that's not true, right?
Yeah.
There's challenges, there's always obstacles. But it's to understand that through that dreaming, with that dreaming, a successful person, at least this is me, right? I don't define a successful person as someone who's never failed. I define a successful person as someone who's failed, but then gets back up every single time. So
Failing
if
is
you
an
take those
experience, isn't it,
dreams,
in
it is.
itself?
You learn from everything. Right? I think it was Nelson Mandela who says, "I don't lose. I either win or I learn." And so there's a lot that we can all be learning about. And so just to, with those dreams in mind, understand that it's not the fall down once. That's the end of it. You get back up and you keep going.
What's the most interesting conversation you've had with a world leader? Who's marked you? As in you remember and you're like, that was an interesting one, a good one. One of my tops.
I think
Do you have a top three?
I don't know. They've all been interesting.
isn't
They've
it?
all been pretty different, because you come from
Really?
different regions, different topics.
Yeah.
Like, for example, Mozambique was girl marriage.
Okay.
Like, took a lot of work with the president, Felipe Nyusi, the first lady's office, 16 months of back and forth conversations before eventually girl marriage was outlawed. And so that was a conversation on girl marriage. In Tanzania, it was about education. With Seychelles, it was about filmmaking. So they're all very different in their own way. There's not like a 1, 2, or 3 that like you would rank in any particular order. Like I said, I'm just grateful for every opportunity.
Conversation-wise or personality-wise?
Both. Everyone's different. I don't think I've not met two leaders who are this. It would be like us, for example.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've interviewed all kinds of people on this couch. There's never two people who are exactly the same, right? There's always something that sets them apart.
But you don't have a top three?
I don't have a top 3, no.
I don't think she wants to tell us. Writing a book in the future?
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, your life in itself is a book, isn't it?
In its own way, yeah.
Yeah.
I know, I've been told before you should sit down and actually start documenting the thing.
I was about to ask you if you're going to probably make your own documentary.
Oh, that's a bit easier as a filmmaker for me. That'd be a bit easier. But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe I'll come here and premiere it.
Okay. All right. Zoriel, it was an absolute pleasure meeting you.
Thank you so much.
I don't know where you're heading off to next.
I don't either, honestly. I'll go back home first, obviously.
Okay.
But where to next
Take a little
after
break.
that, who knows?
School? You still in school?
I am, yeah. I'm in grad school right now.
Okay. How's that going?
I've been balancing school.
Balancing school and work.
I've been balancing it since I was 9 years old, so I'm completely used to it now.
Okay. All right. So all the best for the future.
Thank you so much.
All the best for the nomination.
Thank you.
Okay. And of course, all the best to the family as well. I know they travel with you everywhere you go.
Absolutely. I'll pass that along.
On this note, mesdames et messieurs, Zoriel, un zen advocate qui advocate pour la paix, l'unité, mais plus important l'éducation. Et pareil, il dit, ben zen, pas restricté au l'école, dream big. Hein? You never know where it could lead you. Nominee for a Nobel Peace Prize. Tout ça la bonne possibilité. Président de la République. Tout ça la bonne possibilité. Mais entre-temps, l'importance, c'est les sons qui inspirent ou comment est zen pour prendre action sur quelque chose qui n'est pas satisfait avec, faire une différence dans la communauté. Mais plus important, commencer dans la cour. Après, dans cette barrière, on va arriver dans les autres endroits. On décide ça, c'était une Topik conversation. Pour aujourd'hui, bon matin.